Hello everybody, Hellcrex here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode, 350. Yes, there's been 350 episodes, so if it's the first time you ever listened to it, go back, there's plenty more of this stuff around. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the Donar Assault Helicopter. Well, it's not really what I would consider an assault helicopter, but it gets the job done. Alright, so we got a 21-ton, yes, it's basically the Warrior, but clanized. Yeah, they take, hey, we like the Warrior, let's just make a clan version of it. But better, right? Okay. So the Donar Assault Helicopter is 21 tons. It's a 14 moving helicopter, so it's not that fast, but it's not slow by any means. So it can get the 5 mod on it. If you're doing it correctly, you're going to get a 4 or 5 on it. Usually, if you got to make a few turns in there to get lined up for a shot or something, yeah, you probably only get a 4 mod. But that will keep it alive against probably almost all Inner Sphere mechs. Standard ones that you're going to be fighting against that have a 3 or 4 gunner in it. So if you're at long range, which this helicopter kind of excels at, shooting at long range. So it's not till you get into short range where you have the potential of getting hit. Now, if you go against clans that have target computers and pulse lasers, yeah, you throw that equation out the door. Yeah, it's like many times I've seen VTOLs and stuff of that nature just get swatted down. It's like, oh, look over there. Just kill it, be done with it. You know, it's got a 5 mod on it. Who cares? Because I got a 2 gunner with a pulse laser, large pulse lasers and target computer. Yeah, I just negated that, and it's just like, oh, okay, I need 8s. Bang, gone, type of deal. So, yeah, you have to think about that. But against Inner Sphere, not a problem. All right, so what else do we have on this wonderful thing? Well, we have 12 single heat sinks. Okay, 12, why is there 12? Well, obviously it's got a fusion engine on board. And it has 3 tons of ferrofibrous armor, so it's pretty well protected. So it can take some hits and keep on ticking. Now, the biggest drawback you're always going to find is like, I'd say 80-90% of the time that you shoot down a VTOL helicopter is you took out the rotor. It's like it's gone. It's like all it takes is an LBX 10 hitting it, or even an LBX 5 or 2 shooting out at long range, hammering away, shotgun mode, and just like 1 point, oh, rotor, 1 point, rotor, okay, 1 point, rotor, 1 point, rotor, and it's down. All right, but the wonderful thing about rotors, it's divided by, so even if you hit it with an AC-20, it's like, oh, okay, it's still ticking. It's still got the rotor, because that's not 20 points on the rotor, it's 0.2 points. Depends on the size of the weapon hitting it. So it's either 1 point or 2 points. And a lot of times they're going to be taking care of that. All right, so let's delve into this other wonderful thing. Now, weapons. It does have an ER large laser. So yes, this is the wonderful thing about this helicopter. It can sit there outside of everything that the Inner Sphere will be throwing at you, except for AC-2s, is the ER large laser. That's why you got those 2 extra heat sinks on board. So, because obviously 12 heat, you got to dissipate that. But that's not a problem. And you have something up close, is the 2-streak 2s with a ton of ammo. All right. Now, that's just kind of like your fallback weapon system. It's like, oh yeah, if somebody getting close in, I can throw in the streaks just for fun of it, see if I do some plinky damage. Now, later in the game, when you got the potential of somebody, forces have been beat down, you got holes everywhere, and you're tired of using these guys as long-range snipers because they can just float around in the backfield, punching 10 points here and there, then it's like, okay, now we can come in close and start getting into the flanks where, okay, that mech has a bunch of open spots in it, those streaks can be your crit hunters. Or if you see vehicles and you float around the sides of them and hit them in the right or left side, and the streaks will be good for helping with mobility shots. You can knock down a point of movement here, a point of movement there, or even get a critical hit and totally track them. Or if you're hitting hovercraft, then it's a really interesting thing, because then you got all the plus mods on that if you're shooting into the sides. So you can really do a wonderful job on slowing them down. But that's something for later in the game. Now, if they have hovercraft and they're whipping themselves up the side of the flank or anything, yeah, this would be a very good vehicle to intercept and just, I'm going to get into your right or left side, and I'm going to focus fire down that line and try to get some mobility shots on them, because you got pluses when it comes to mobility shots when it comes to hovercraft. So, or even wheeled vehicles. Well, that's the one thing I could really see the streaks being used for. Otherwise, I'm going to be hovering back in the backfield with that ER large laser all day and hammering away. Now, the one thing is that it does come in a little spendy. It's a little over 900 battle value. So you may be looking at, well, do I want to take a couple, if you're running a couple of these, do you want to potentially take a mech instead? That's the things you have to look at. But, if you're looking at the clan, the Hell Horses, do have a potential of throwing a lot of vehicles into the mix. That's just the way they operate, is they're not afraid to have a lot of vehicles on the battlefield, which is totally different from most of the clans. So you got to think about that too. So who are you playing? And maybe some of these would be really nice to have around. Now, I wouldn't even think twice about it if I'm playing against Intersphere. It's like, hey, try to do something against these things. If it's hovering out there at long range, even if you got LRMs, yeah, you may try to look at potential of shooting at them, but the odds are it's not in your favor. So if you're shooting at long range and this thing has a 4 mod on it, that's a +8. You're looking at typically, if you're standing still with a 4 gunner, you're looking at 12s. Are you going to shoot at a potential of 12, or are you going to shoot at something that's going to be closer, where you're going to have maybe a 9 or 10 for your hitting? So now, if you got energy weapons that maybe that's your only target, yeah, like throw them down range. It's like, I'm not going to heat up or anything. I'm just going to take 8. I'm going to take a shot at it and just see what sticks to the wall. But 9 times out of 10, that probably is not going to show up in your scenario, due to the fact that you're going to be looking at more potential hazardous targets that are in front of you. All right. Now, there's a few other versions of this little vehicle. There's the Recon version, which is kind of interesting. This one is popular with Clan Goliath Scorpion. This is the Recon version. Basically replaces the streak launchers with an active probe, ECM suite, and tag. And this comes in at 800 battle value, so it's a little cheaper than your other version that you typically will see, the version we just talked about. And I can see this being very handy. If you are running any type of aero systems behind you, or running some guided munitions out of, let's say, a long tom or something of that nature, you behooves you to have some tag on board. Usually the clans run aero systems. They got the Naga, so obviously they do think about having some mobile artillery. And tag is a wonderful thing to help out. And then if you have ECM and an active probe, you can find targets. Now, if you're fighting against typical Korea forces that may have a C3 network on board, you could run one of these along the flanks or something of that nature, a couple of them, and then get them in that and shutting down networks. And that's a useful tool for them. And getting in there near where they're, let's just say, if you have the master unit someplace, you get in close, shut down the master unit, and then call in and guide in the artillery on top of them and start blasting them and forcing them to move. And either closer, it's like herding cats sometimes maybe, but you can get them into your benefit, not theirs. Shut them down. That's one version that I can see very useful. And it still has some firepower. It's not denying, you're losing the streaks, but in one way you're not losing a lot of damage and you're gaining some, especially if you're running artillery. So yeah, the artillery is going to be doing more damage than those streaks will. All right, so there's that. Then there's the close support version. This is kind of interesting. This one has a light tag. Okay, you're still looking at finding targets for your rockets or any type of artillery that's got munitions. All right, so there's that. You got the active probe. So it's very similar to the recon version. So you do have the a mast mount for the active probe. All right, and the tag. So now the interesting thing is it has two front mounted heavy medium lasers. Yeah, they only go out to 9. And then you have a the streaks have been replaced by a pair of one-shot SRM2s. Now, and this comes in as just slightly less than 580 battle value. Kind of interesting in one way, but personally, instead of having the heavy medium lasers, I'd rather have a pair of medium lasers instead, and then that will save you some tonnage, because you're going overboard with the heat sinks to have some short range heavy medium lasers. Yes, you have to get in close. If they do hit, you're going to do some major damage, but they're not improved heavy medium lasers by any means. So yeah, you're having some detrimental problems with that. So I'd rather have just a pair of ER medium lasers. Gaining range, you still got some decent damage, but you're freeing up some tonnage off of the heat sinks that you can either keep the streaks or, and let's just say, let me look it up here. I do have a version I looked at with this. Okay. Yeah, 2 ER medium lasers, a standard tag, an active probe, 2 SRM4s with 2 tons of ammunition, or a ton of ammunition, or 2 tons of ammunition, and then an ECM suite. So I just look at it that way, is that with 2 tons of ammunition, I can go standard hitting, or I can throw some infernos in there and just do some good work by starting fires, burning up some infantry, causing some heat problems on mechs, giving you some options there. And you still have the standard range with the SRM4s, but you're gaining a little bit of range with those ER medium lasers. Sorry. So that's what I would look at when it comes to, you got the heavies versus the just standard ER mediums. And you don't have to worry about any more heat sinks, and you can throw on a little bit more weapon systems that I would consider a little bit better. Yes, you got the one-shot streaks, so they don't fire unless you get a lock on. But then once you fire, it's like, okay, you did your little bit of damage, and then you basically carrying around a system that's not, you're just wasted tonnage then. That's the one shots that I hate, is that you're just wasting tonnage, in my opinion. I'd rather have some better systems. All right, so that is the Donar. Not a bad little helicopter. Very useful, I'd say. And can be used in multiple roles on the battlefield, depending on how the battle is going for you. All right. It can be a late game changer for getting in close and causing havoc, or it can just sit there and be a long-range sniper for you, depending on the version. So I like it. It's not bad. All right. That's the Donar. Hope you guys like it. Like and subscribe. Share with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Helcrex out.